Interesting topic. I think that it's something that we hear so often, and it's the conversation centering whether or not college is a scam, right? And I think one of the things that I talked to you guys about in the last episode was how, when it comes to your innate talents, right? How you can develop a skill and you can become better at it when it's in alignment with your innate talents, right? But it's one of those things to which you're not really gonna get better when it's your gift. It's just one of those things where it's like you do it the best. It's something that's given, to be honest. And I found for myself that the university was more so teaching me to polish up on my weaknesses. And I found it to be a waste of time because, to be honest, I wasn't really the type of person who wanted to get better at my weaknesses. I think that humility, to be honest, comes from accepting that you're not going to be good at everything. And for me, it was one of those things where it was like, you got to realize that you do certain things well, and that's enough, right? And that's okay. And I think what I was looking for was something that was more so in alignment with what it was that I wanted. And I think that at the end of the day, to be honest, life is about experiences. And sometimes we start out in a certain space, and sometimes we start out, on a certain journey doing one thing. And you look up and it's just like trial and error. It's like, okay, this isn't the right path, and this isn't what I want, and this isn't the thing that's going to take me further in a sense of like what it was that I want to do and what it is going to help me become better, right? And what it is that I'm doing. And, sometimes the lack of belief in ourselves can make us do things, a little hasty, and it can make us, make wrong decisions, and that's why I think when it comes to your confidence, like God tells us to keep your confidence because it's going to have a great reward. It's in the Bible, wisdom, but it's true because I think whenever we start to feel a little bit shaky within ourselves and we start to doubt our confidence and our ability in ourselves, it makes us make some very hasty decisions that, we can't always necessarily go back on. And I realized for myself, it's like, you want to take your time with things, you want to take your time when it comes to like certain decision making. But at the end of the day, it's life, it's life. And I think the best thing that I can do and what I would encourage everyone to do moving forward in your life when it comes to making decisions, just be mindful of the space in which you're operating in. It's like, if you're in a season where you're insecure, you're not going to be making your best decisions, and that's okay. And now it's like you kind of understand the concept of feeling good and being happy. God says, don't cast your cares, right? Don't worry about the world and tribulations, right? And you hear people who are spiritual and they talk about like, keeping your vibration high and feeling good all the time, because it makes a difference. When you fall beneath that and, you start to feel condemned and you start to be subjected to just like all of the negative things, I think that is just one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I just think that it's like you find yourself in a space where you're not making the best decisions. And, I think for me, one of the things that I've learned coming into 25 is I just didn't really want to waste any more time, And so for me, it was just kind of a matter of like getting serious about what it was that I wanted to do. And I do think that, life absolutely requires patience. I realized that even just in this element of my journey is like kind of like Mario Karts, like you keep racing and you're gaining tokens, you're gaining little gems and things that can help, further the vision and make it more clear. And I think with every new door comes an opportunity. And if you know where it is that you're going, then you can see how this opportunity is going to propel you forward. And it just makes sense and it works, And so I feel like for myself, I've always just kind of find it to where it's like, I'm learning to just be patient, and I'm learning that, it's okay to make mistakes, but as you get older, it's like, you don't want to just be out here blatantly doing stuff because, time is on the line. And I think that we are on borrowed time, and who wants to waste time? Like, I don't know. I feel like I've always been someone who's like really been a big stickler and like about wasting time. Like I get irritated, when my time is wasted, and I've always disliked the little details. I was telling you guys about how I'm reading this book and it's called Know Your Strengths or something like that. And it just kind of talks about excellence as being a talent. And I've always kind of found that to myself. I get a little irritated with like little details. Someone's telling me something and it's like, okay, just get to the point, right? I've always kind of found that to be within myself. And that's why I say, for me, books is very validating, and it's how I find my confidence, because you don't always meet people who are like-minded, and you don't always necessarily come across your people right away. I think sometimes it takes a lifetime to really develop your tribe and to gain your friendships and your connections just throughout the course of your life, because, well, that's life, and we're always progressing and moving, and the vision is always being perfected, by God and his plans and, ordering our steps. But I've always been the type of person, I've always, people coming to me and it's like they just, you ever have people, call you and they're just like rambling, and then it's like they finally get to what it is that they need from, you know what I mean? Like, I've always just kind of been the type of person that's like, just say what it is that you need. Like, what do you need from me? Like, that's just kind of been me. And I used to, people used to say, oh, that's so curt of you. And I realized that, like, no, it's not curt. It's just the way my mind works, and that's why, again, I say find your haven, find your medium, find the things that validate you, because I think when we're just in the wrong element, we're on the wrong path, we can really get ate up, you know what I mean? Like, and it ain't always necessarily serpents, but it's just like, when you take plants and you put them in different environments, like it's, you know what I mean? It's different. And so it's like, cultivate your garden, cultivate the things that can nourish you and sustain you. And confidence goes a long way. It really does. I think one of the things that's super concerning for me right now, with the rise of spirituality, with the rise of, a lot of people coming out sharing their journeys and things like that, is this Christianity, and just how a lot of people are just these new age Christians. I don't know. It's very alarming, because there's not a lot of love there. There's a lot of doctrine. There's a lot of just like religious practices, and there's not really any spiritual element. And that's something that concerns me, because Christianity has been used in the past, and still to this day can sometimes be used by the wrong people to exploit others. And we know the historical pretenses. We understand, just the impact that it has on the mind, the body, and the spirit. And, it's just one of those things. It's a very powerful book, and it's not really something you want to play with. When I first cracked open my Bible, I did have a pastor, and it was like, little piece by piece. I grew in faith. It wasn't one of those things to where, I'm just head first. And I think a lot of people are doing that, and it's like, y'all are, starting to be very condemning, and you're starting to think you got to live this life of perfection, and you're starting to, tell people online they're going to hell. And, anybody who's lived a little while knows that you're going to make mistakes. And I think that, if you're operating by this spirit of condemnation, you got to really take a look in the mirror, because it's like, you got to live your life. You got to live your life, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're fallible. Like, and so I think that sometimes creates a sense of misery and depression within a lot of people who are of faith, and they justify it by saying, hey, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. If I'm suffering, this is what it is that God talks about. The Bible talks about long suffering, and it's like, no, I think that just comes. Some of us suffered in childhood. Some of us suffered in certain spaces. And I think that in life, we go through loss, that's always there. But I think, I'm concerned that we don't really talk about the promises of God. I think that when anyone speaks about prosperity, that's in alignment with Christianity, is always seen as, oh, these pastors are just motivational speakers, and there's a lot of negative connotation around that. And then, I think another thing too is, when you talk about pastors and things like that, I'm at this point in my faith now where I don't really, I have certain pastors that I listen to. I have certain messages that resonate with me. And if I feel called to it, but I'm at this point in my life where I don't really need anybody to teach me about God. I started this journey a very, very long time ago, for myself, 2018, leaving college. I didn't really know too much about the world. I didn't really know what was out here. And I knew that I needed, something greater than me, and so my journey is completely different. And, it's not even for you to compare yourself to. And I'm not really, giving advice. I'm more so just like sharing my testimony with it. And I just want you guys to know, like, you got to find God for yourself. You have to find God for yourself. You could have a person who is reciting every verse in the Bible, and their heart is not with God, and what they have is your mind, right? And we know that like an idle mind is a devil playground. We know that, you know what I mean, those thoughts and things like that come into your mind and hijack your mind, like, you know, that's a very dark, right? And we know that God is lightness. We know that God is love. And so you just want to be mindful of that. We all experience loss. We all experience suffering, you know, but you can have a life of peace, and you can have a life of peace with Christ. You can be spiritual and you can be a Christian, you know, so I don't know. But that's definitely something that's very concerning to me, but I don't want to go too far on a tangent. So anyway, is college worth it? I think it just goes back to your life and your journey. Your life and your journey. You know, if you feel like it's one of those things to where, you know you're good at math and science, you know that you have an innate talents in certain things, and like what may take one person, 4 years, 7 years to graduate, it may take you 3, it may take you 4, it may take you, 3.5, so it's all about your element. And I think that is probably another thing too that I think is tough, especially coming up in this new age. It's like you just have a lot of opinions about things, and I've always, I talked about this in the last episode, how I had to overcome that. But like, it's about your life, and it's about what you want to do with your life. And talk to you guys too about like, just being mindful of certain conspiracies and thinking that if you become this or if you do that, like, like just be mindful of that stuff. Be mindful of always creating a devil on your back. Life is hard enough, and I think that obstacles are going to present themselves, but it's like, come on, yay of little faith. You know what I mean? Like you have to be in a space in which you have a relationship with God and you believe, in everything that God talks about. And I think that's tough when, you have this new age Christianity to where they're not really talking about, the true promises of God and, how God will reward you for your obedience, and they're not really talking about, what I mean? I'm seeing it a little bit, but it's just, I notice there's a lot of condemnation in regards to that. So I think that it's one of those things in which it's about the individual, and I think it's about, your path. And I don't think there's anything wrong with charting your path. I think you gotta just learn, and I think you have to just, I think for me, what I found was, I don't really think I wanted anyone to take credit for the study that I put in on myself, and I didn't want people to say, hey, look, you have this degree, that's where you learned, and that's, you know what I mean? And that's not true. I think a lot of people who have degrees and they're successful, and you may look up to them and you may associate X, Y, and Z. I think it's because they're doing something that they're innately good at, and they just so happen to have a degree, but I don't think that degree really contributed to anything. And, it may have, awarded some type of recognition, but I don't really know, And so, would I say that it's a scam? I don't really know if I would say college is a scam, because I think if you play your cards right, I think that there's a lot of investments. Well, let me just say that. I don't think that college is a scam. I think that college is an investment. And I think with investments, you got to be a good investor to get a return on your investment. And yeah, there you have it. Boom. That's what I think about college. I think that college is an investment, and I think with any investment, you got to be a good investor to get a return on your investment. And if you invest in something you know nothing about, like you ain't really do no research, you don't really know what you're getting into, you can't really expect a return on that investment. And we've heard that from some of the best investors. It's like, hey, is this person, you know what I mean? Like they say, like, don't invest in things you don't understand. You know what I mean? And I think that goes for anything. So that's what I think. And I'm going to end this episode there, because that just kind of answers the question. And I hope everybody has a great day.